Over the last few years, I've reviewed a lot of FPS games, and I like to think I've got a pretty good understanding of what makes an FPS good or bad. But I'm not always going to get it right, and I'll be the first to admit that there's more than a few videos where I just pretty much talk out of my ass, and maybe even miss the whole point of the game entirely, which usually brings along a series of hateful comments on the video. One of these videos is my Soldier of Fortune 2 review, which I reviewed a little over 3 years ago. Now, I'm not saying the review was horrible, and I'm not saying it was perfect, but there's definitely a lot of discrepancies with the whole thing, and I get almost weekly, if not daily, comments telling me how wrong my opinion is. I was sorting out my game collection the other day and came across my physical copy for the Gold Edition and thought, what the hell, let's give it a quick play. To my surprise, I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I did before, to the point where I felt compelled to do this Redux review. So let's wipe the slate clean, Sonny Jim, bury the hatchet and all that shit, and go back and take a look at Raven Software's Soldier of Fortune 2 again, shall we? So Soldier of Fortune 2 again puts you into the shoes or boots of mercenary John Mullins, a serious ass kicker with a gravelly voice that would put Tom Waits to shame. The game kicks off with a flashback in Prague, where Mullins is rescuing a scientist involved in some top secret biowarfare research. After blowing away a few dozen bad guys, Mullins escapes with the scientist, and the game flashes forward to the present time, where he's then tasked with heading to Colombia to look into a mysterious virus called Romulus, created by a mysterious organization known as Prometheus. It all feels like a Tom Clancy novel, and it has a pretty serious tone overall with very little humour. The soundtrack is suitably depressing, though it does have its high points. The music during the mission in Colombia sounds like it's from the first Predator film. Anyway, from this point you kinda jet around the globe, searching for more clues and violently killing everyone that is stupid enough to get in your way. Not every mission starts off guns blazing though, and the game has a very basic stealth system in place, where an alarm is tripped if you're even in the line of sight of an enemy for a split second, but the only mission in the game that forces you to remain undetected is the prologue in Prague. After this, it's still a mechanic in certain missions, but the only penalty to being detected is the sound of a blaring alarm and constantly spawning enemies. It almost feels like they wanted to expand this system some more, but that it was just put into the game unfinished. You can even pick bodies up and carry them into empty rooms to avoid detection, but half the time the bodies despawn before you even need to do this. Like I said, it just feels unfinished. When you're not skulking around and popping people's heads with a silenced pistol, you're instead shooting everyone that moves. Soldier of Fortune 2 runs on the Quake III engine at a time when every man and his dog was using this engine in their FPS game. It still holds up in certain areas, mostly the texture work, which is generally pretty good, and the modelling of weapons, which still looks awesome. Character models are pretty basic, which you'll notice the most during cinematics, where the lip syncing and animations is beyond horrid. And there's a few larger opened up areas in certain missions which honestly look like something from the PlayStation 1 in terms of how barren they are. But the way the engine really shines is the way it's included the Ghoul engine damaging system, something that was present in the first game, and it's now been updated and brought into Soldier of Fortune 2, and holy shit is it glorious. I don't think it's really possible to overstate the violence in this game. It's really on a whole different level. Playing this game for the first time as a kid is the same feeling you get when you accidentally come across pornography for the first time, where it's like this entirely new thing that you're experiencing that you can't believe you're getting away with, and you know that at any second some adult could come walking in and catch you in the act. Yeah, that's right, this game is violent. They've even got a violence lock option in the main menu. Shooting someone in the head leaves a large exit wound and their clothes spattered with blood. The shotgun is most likely to remove limbs entirely, most notably their head, legs, or hands. It's particularly gruesome blowing someone's hand off and watching them scream their lungs out as they slowly collapse to the ground, clutching the stump where their hand used to be. A neck shot elicits a struggled gurgling sound, and using explosives turns body parts into a shower of red mush. You can literally peck away at someone's corpse with a knife and dissect them piece by piece. It's that over the top, and yes, it's goddamn awesome. Mullins has a pretty hefty arsenal of guns to kill people with, and they're all loud and impactful as they really should be. There's upwards of a dozen in the game. There's a couple of shotguns, a sniper rifle, few machine guns, pistols, and an Uzi which can be dual wielded, and they all look great. Probably the biggest difference with this game in regards to the first, and something I missed in my original review, is that this is not a run and gun shooter, not at all. Moving through levels haphazardly will get you killed really quickly. You need to slowly lean around corners to see where enemies might be lurking. When you're leaning, for some reason you're practically invincible, and this is kind of a necessity because you take damage really easily, even on the lower difficulty settings. Enemies are quite aggressive as well and will often rush your position, which can be used to your advantage as it's easy to just wait around a corner and pop every asshole that comes your way. Most of the weapons have alternate firing modes too, with auto, burst, and single shot. Auto being almost useless due to the weapon recoil, and single shot being the most effective almost across the board. The M4 in single firing mode remains one of the most useful weapons for the entire game, even more so due to its grenade launcher as a secondary fire mode. I really think I had a fundamental misunderstanding of the shooting mechanics in my original review, which led to a lot of frustration at the time, but I still do think the game has a few faults. For starters, I'm not a fan of the screen bombing when you're moving, and when crawling, Mullins is literally slower than a newborn. But I really think the biggest problem is the grenades, or enemies throwing them I should say. Now, it's cool and impressive how accurate enemies are when using grenades against you, but you get such a limited window of opportunity to react when they're thrown at you. About all the indication you're given is the sound effect of the grenade bouncing around, but it's often not enough time to react due to the large spread the explosion has. I'm not asking for a grenade icon to pop up on the screen or anything like that, but I think at the very least the radius should be smaller. During the mission in Colombia, it is almost impossible to see where they land because the whole area is covered in thick grass. This mission also poses its own unique issues where enemies can inexplicably see you through the aforementioned thick grass and fire with perfect precision. Soldier of Fortune 2 is definitely a challenging game, even more so due to the limited amount of quick saves, but these kind of artificial difficulties are really just unfair, and it happens a lot in these opened up areas. During the interior locations where you can let rip with a weapon like the automatic shotgun, the combat truly shines. It's just a shame that it doesn't excel across the board. Once you learn how the enemies act and get familiar with their strategies, the game does become a lot easier though. One of the later missions also introduces civilians or hostages who run in between the gunfire with their hands up in the air like total dingleberries. It actually reminded me a lot of Virtua Cop. The campaign's pretty long too, as you'd kind of expect and really want in an old school shooter. If you're taking your time and not dying all that much, it would easily be upwards of 10 hours, and after that there's a couple other modes to sink your teeth into. One of them being the random mission generator and the other the dedicated multiplayer mode. The random mission generator is pretty much as it sounds. You choose from a few different options and then the generator makes a random mission depending on what you've chosen. Now these are basic at best, but they do give the game a bit more longevity. The multiplayer mode was really popular at the time of the game's release, but it seems no one is really playing it anymore, so I can't really comment on it. So there you go, I admitted I was kind of wrong about Soldier of Fortune 2. I don't consider it any kind of masterpiece, but it's still a pretty decent shooting game with some fantastic violence and a somewhat enjoyable campaign. And playing it again, I almost kinda like it. Yeah, alright, I'm a goddamn hypocritical son of a bitch, I get it. You're probably thinking at this point, I hope he goes back and redoes all these old crappy reviews, and yeah, that's a nice pipe dream, but the real reason I thought I'd go back and take a look at this game was because in the next video I'll be taking a look at the final game in the series, Soldier of Fortune Payback, which was universally panned by critics and gamers alike. Now this game was banned in Australia due to its excessive violence, and it was heaped on by gamers for its crappy gameplay. Is it worth all the negativity? Well, in the next video, Sunny Jim, we'll find out.